Hey, Steve.
Hey, Sandy.
What does a Goatman, a Snallygaster, and Edgar Allan Poe have in common?
I don't know. That's a tough one. What do they have in common?
They're all in mysterious Maryland.
Ooh. Hi, I'm Steve.
And I'm Sandy, and we're Two Tenderfoot Tourists. Welcome to episode 62, the one about mysterious Maryland.
Well, hey, it's October.
Right, and we decided that we should do something special for October.
Oh, definitely, seeing how Halloween is right around the corner.
Yes. Ooh.
Okay, so, yeah, Halloween's right around the corner.
Well, and because it was October, we decided we would talk about Maryland.
Yes, Maryland. It's got such a rich heritage, and it's got a long list of history of spooky things. Am I right?
Yeah, okay. Seriously, when you told me you want to talk about Maryland, I was like, okay, I've not heard that much about Maryland. How spooky can it be? We finally quit looking. We had so many on our list. We're like, okay, quit looking into new ones. We don't have time to get them all in. So, honestly, Maryland, if we miss something, send us something about it, because you guys are cool.
and per usual, if you hear something on our podcast that you're saying, yeah, I've experienced that, let us know too at tenderfoottourist@gmail.com or on our Facebook page, Instagram, or Twitter.
We do not confirm or deny any sightings.
That's right. We just enjoy, we want something spooky for Halloween, am I right?
That's right. And we honestly, if we ever get to the point where we can, we'll probably go on some of these little spooky destinations because they're fascinating.
Which we're still looking for investors who are willing to invest in the Two Tenderfoot Tourist podcast and just simply send us free everywhere, just paying for everything.
Just tickets. It's not like we're asking much.
No, I know. Okay, so the first thing, the two first things, by the way, just a prerequisite before we go into this. The first two are something that encompass the entire state, basically, and it is steeped in a lot of lore.
They're legends.
They are legends,
right.
Exactly. And they're just a lot of fun, scary stuff. And you can actually chalk them up to something that pretty much was a tale used to scare children into behaving themselves.
I started to say, that's what your little stories used to be for. You know, we say, tell your child a bedtime story. They didn't used to do it quite that way. Years ago, they told them stories to scare them into submission.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
And to scare them where they didn't want to roam far.
Right.
And, oh my goodness.
Do you have any stories like that when you were a little kid? What's the earliest memory of you having it?
No, my mom didn't do that to me.
Yeah, I remember, like the ghost of, an old woman who lived up in a cabin. And she'd roam around the woods with a lantern.
Was that near you?
Yeah, it was near us.
Okay, because I started saying...
I'm just going to say that was the ghost haunting sort of spooky
The closest
thing.
I've had to that is just what I told you about, and I think we talked about on the podcast even about the albino farm.
Oh, yeah, that was here
and that
locally,
was the closest I had to that, and that was not my parents that did that to me. My brother took me out there, because that's what big brothers do.
That is what they
Scare
do.
the daylights out of their siblings,
yes.
especially little sisters.
Do you guys have ghost stories? Let us know at tenderfoottourist@gmail.com. Let us know what kind of things spooked you as a child. Okay, so the first one we want to go to is Goatman.
Okay, Goatman is an interesting one because just what I read, and you and I have talked about this, there was lots of origin stories.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it just kind of snowballed. Am I right?
Oh yeah, it's crazy. What I have here is that he was a goat farmer who went crazy after teens killed his goats. Others say he's the result of a human-animal experiment at the Beltsville Research Agricultural Center gone horribly wrong.
Which is kind of funny because in my research it said that this place had to actually put out a disclaimer that no, they were not responsible for making Goatman. I think that was like in the 1950s or something like that.
It's so funny if you think about it because this is a legend.
Yeah.
Nothing proven, and they have to put out a disclaimer.
They have to put a disclaimer out. But anyway, yeah. So he kind of haunts all different kinds of places there. Right now, currently, he's at the Cry Baby Bridge, which has another legend and lore that we're not going to bring up in here. You can do your own research, but still. But yeah, supposedly hangs out there. And what kind of description do we have about this guy?
Oh, goodness. It says that he's half goat, half man covered in blood, and that he carries an axe. Is that what it was?
A hatchet or an axe,
hatchet,
yeah.
yes. And that he's been known to go around decapitating dogs and scare teens that are parking. That's what I've got on this one.
Hence the story that we were talking, not the story, but what we were talking about, stories of kids that we hear all the time. Kind of like The Hook, the guy that escaped from the mental asylum. And
the girl is sitting in the car and she's waiting for her boyfriend to get back because he was going for gas.
Mm-hmm.
And she keeps hearing the scratching, but she's scared to get out of the car. And in the morning she wakes up, she gets out, and the boyfriend's hanging upside down above the car, and his fingers were what was scratching all night.
Yeah.
That would scare you to not go on parking.
I don't like parking anyway.
Okay.
Okay, so he's, what did you say? He was like 6 foot tall or something like that, and he's covered with fur. He had the head of a goat, and he walks around with an axe, and he eats pets.
Well,
is that what you said?
No, I said he cuts off the heads of dogs.
Oh, cuts the heads off the dogs. Okay. Yeah, that right there is a part of the Goatman is a part of a big legend. So, I mean, anywhere you
disturbing.
go, like go to the Crybaby Bridge and be careful not to run across the Goatman because he is a scary person. So, yeah, the Goatman lurks around the bridge in Bowie, named the Governor Bridge, also nicknamed the Crybaby Bridge. And the Goatman prefers targets are couples who dare to enter his bridge. Supposedly, if you park under the bridge after dusk, you might hear the shrill scream of a crying baby or even the braying of a goat. Even more unlikely, you may even see the Goatman himself. The Goatman has also been seen to jump on cars and attack drivers, kill pets, break into houses in search for food, and capture civilians in the woods. So he's still being seen from time to time. In fact, you know what? I tried to find what is the most recent sighting, and really I came up kind of Bupkis right here. Bupkis?
That surprised me. Came up with Bupkis.
I came up with Bupkis. Is that how you say it? Bupkis?
I don't think so, but I don't remember. I've always said Bupkis.
Look at that. You always say Buttkis?
Uh-huh.
I always thought it was Bupkis. Okay.
Look it up yourself. You're the one that wants to know.
Bupkis. Oh, there you go.
Here's the definition of Bupkis. Informal. Nothing at all.
Yeah, Bupkis.
How's it spelled?
Bupkis.
There you go.
So I was right. You were wrong.
I'm surprised
in
it's
your
in
face.
the dictionary.
Okay, so the next thing that affects basically the entire state of Maryland.
The Snallygaster.
Snallygaster is an interesting one. It's a folklore based in German folklore, I guess. And it was brought over by German immigrants in 1730s.
Yeah, it looks like it was described as a half reptile, half bird with a metallic beak lined with razor-sharp teeth.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally with octopus-like tentacles.
No big deal. And supposedly your only defense is a 7-pointed star. I'm not kidding.
Oh my goodness.
And then from time to time, local barns that are really, really old, you'll still see the 7-pointed star all over the place. So, I mean, from time to time. Now, what's so interesting about it is there was a lot of things that were going on due to the Snallygaster, right? Which, by the way, even to this day, Snallygaster is with a lack of a better word, celebrated. Just in Washington, D.C., because Washington, D.C. actually shares a Snallygaster monster. They have a brew fest that they do in Washington, D.C., and they have one that's in October.
I bet they do see monsters.
Yes, exactly. So, supposedly the newspaper, there said President Theodore Roosevelt had said that he was going to end his African safari just to come over to Maryland and hunt the Snallygaster.
Somebody wanted some attention.
And yeah, as it turns out, it was a hoax. It was the Middletown Valley Register who said it, or reported that that's what Theodore Roosevelt had said. But, I mean, make a long story short, it is something that is still being seen to this day.
According to what I'm reading here, it says in the 19th century, it has been suggested the legend was resurrected in the 19th century to frighten freed slaves.
Oh, okay, yeah. Wow.
I know. I'm just like,
that's
whoa.
But also, in 1909, there was so many reported sightings of this particular creature, the Snallygaster, that it gained the attention of the Smithsonian Institute, where they actually had a reward for anyone who captures this particular beast. Okay?
Very cool.
So, but they describe it, and you already gave a description. Let me give another description that someone has. Enormous wings, a long pointed bill, claw-like steel hooks, like claws. It had an eye in the center of its forehead, and when it screeches, it sounds like a locomotive whistle.
Okay, that would be scary.
That would be terrifying. Also, it has also been confused for the Jersey Devil, too, which is also another thing.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the Jersey Devil?
Yeah, yep.
Terrifying. But yeah, and nobody understands or knows what exactly this creature is specifically, but it is based on German folklore and has become an American folklore. Early accounts describe the community being terrorized by this monster. The earliest stories claim that the monster sucked the blood of its victims.
Awesome.
It also ate people's pets. It also...
That's just out of line.
And also... Poor Marco. But also it has been said that it carried off with people just like the Jersey Devil. So, I mean, if that's something that interests you, that may be a reason for you to go hunting in Maryland.
Yep.
Okay. So, yeah, they do have the Beastly Beer Jamboree. That's in Washington, D.C., and they have another one in 2018, and they just have all these different kinds. It's a beer fest. And it's the Snallygaster Beastly Jamboree. So that may be something that comes out this month, actually, in October. Another creature.
Yeah.
I like this one.
This one I've actually heard about. And I mean, this thing has been around for a long time because I remember hearing about it when we were kids.
Right.
It's called Chessie, the sea monster.
Yeah. It's in Chesapeake Bay.
Yep.
And it's been around for a long, long time.
If you want the short version, it's basically the American version of the Loch Ness Monster.
Really? That is the short end of the...
But we don't believe in short versions.
No.
We always say long story short and never mean it. Right. So...
Well, everybody that's seen it, everybody says, well, it's just an otter. It's just a manatee. It's just a mutant eel. It was another one. A mutant eel.
That's disturbing.
Some people referred to it as being like some sort of Dungeons and Dragons sort of creature. What was it called? Zeuglodon.
Yeah, I can't remember what you said, but yeah.
But I would like, if it's anything, I think it's a dinosaur. It's a Basilosaurus. That's it, a Basilosaurus. That's what, because the way they describe it is just like that. And there's no reason to think that there isn't still dinosaurs or some sort of creatures like that undiscovered still in this
under the water, right?
Under the water, because it's such a vast body of water.
Well, and it's not really nailed down to how big they really think it is.
That's true.
Some say 25 feet long, some say 40.
Mm-hmm.
So you really don't have a really good,
Okay, so when people give descriptions for it, when they see a really good picture of it, and it's not a manatee, which, by the way, we discovered that sometimes that happens, that manatees go up the channel,
right,
along the East Coast, and they make their way into the Chesapeake Bay, and they'll have to pick that manatee up and take it back down to Florida.
Yeah, because they can't get it back out.
Yeah, they can't get it back out. So I can understand why someone would say, oh, look, there's a monster, when they're not accustomed to seeing manatees in that area.
Yeah, it would probably throw me a little bit.
But, I mean, the way that the manatee swims is different from whenever people report they see the Chessie.
Right, and manatees aren't 25 feet long or more either.
No, they're not, no.
Now, granted, they might see more than one manatee together, I suppose,
right,
and they might think they see humps from, but yeah, this talks about the swimming using its body, moving through the water, basically like what a snake would do. Right.
It does I don't know, I almost said swagger, but
I was going to say wiggling back and forth. I mean, yeah. I know there's better terms. As a matter of fact, there's one called sine curve.
Mm-hmm.
SINE curve.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard that term before, but that's how they describe it.
Right. Well, and it's become basically, it is an icon for environmentalism, Chessie has, and you got coloring books and kids, them little toys and stuff like that. So everybody loves Chessie. Apparently nobody's threatened by it, so that if you decide to go and take a boat out on the Chesapeake Bay or try to go canoeing in one of its rivers, you don't have to worry about Chessie eating you.
Yeah.
The way they describe it is, it's like 25, sometimes 40 feet long, which I'm thinking if it has offspring, then you're going to have all various sizes, right?
Yep.
So, and then on top of that, it's got a small head, and usually the only things that really appear out of the water is the far end of the tail and then the head, which ends up being, it's a lot smaller than the body. But the reports, let me see.
The reports are really interesting. It says here that the earliest reported sighting of a Chessie-like creature may have been from a military helicopter flying over a Bush River in 1936.
Oh, okay.
Something reptilian and unknown in the water was observed by the helicopter's crew. And that's a quote. Do you want to do the next one, or did you have one?
Was it 1943 was the next time it was spotted? According to Matt Lake in Weird Maryland, which is also a book you can actually pick up, two perch fishermen, Francis and Edward, in 1943 spotted something in the water near Baltimore. They said the thing was about 75 feet away. At first, it looked like something floating in the water. It was black, and the part of it was out of the water seemed about 12 feet long. Its head was about as big as a football and shaped somewhat like a horse's head. Turned its head around several times, almost all the way around. So, I mean, that was what they saw.
Well, and in 1978, witnesses claimed to have seen Chessie near southern Maryland's Calvert's Cliff State Park and in the Potomac.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
In Westmoreland County.
That's
it.
Oh,
that's in Virginia.
And they actually gave a sketch of the creature. I'm sure you can find that online. But later it was identified as a manatee.
Oh.
So, I mean, but 1982, there was also a reported videotape of Chessie near Kent Island. And then the video shows is a brownish object moving side to side like an aquatic snake. Remember
Just
what you were
like
saying?
yep. Mm-hmm.
And then the most notable sighting of the beast was in 1997.
Off the shore of Fort Smallwood Park, very close to the shore, it's saying. Wow, very cool. And the most recent sighting that we could find was in April of 2014.
Yep. So yeah, and right now it is seen as an icon for environmentalism. Is what they're using it right now. Like I said, you could get coloring books and toys and stuff like that. So it is very much, it is something that people love to promote, basically. I mean, people love Chessie.
And you know what? We can turn anything into a cartoon.
That is true. Not really. I bet I could name a few things you couldn't.
Freddy Krueger.
That would be a good one.
Jason.
Yeah. Charles Manson.
No. Oh, messed up.
Hey, listen, mine beat yours big time.
Hands down.
So, okay. So, now let me see. What did we cover? Goatman, Snallygaster,
and
Chessie, the Chesapeake Bay sea monster.
So we went from creatures, now we're going to talk about hauntings.
That's it. So if creatures is not your bag, then we got hauntings for you on this episode.
Yeah, this is pretty cool actually. And I mean, if you don't like hauntings but you like history, you're going to eat this stuff up. This is really fascinating. We're kind of a crossover. We kind of find them both fun.
Yeah, we do. Would you camp on Chesapeake Bay? Would you camp there?
Sure,
knowing Chessie was there?
Yeah, I don't care.
It doesn't bother you?
No.
That he could, like, step on your tent? Like, walking up on the shore?
He wiggles.
He wiggles? Oh, then he'd, like, smear you.
I don't care.
No?
I'm not worried about him.
All right, that's cool.
I'd say, here, Chessie. Here, Chessie. As Kyle would say, I'd feed him a cheeseburger.
Who was he going to feed this cheeseburger to?
He was going to do that with the stingrays.
That's right.
That's my boy.
I'll sneak him in a cheeseburger.
Who needs an 8-year-old child to take through places like that? I got a 22-year-old one.
That's right. He works great as that, right? Just as a child.
Okay, back up. We're distracted again. Okay, back in time. Mm-hmm. So we have found several places that are supposedly haunted. And the first one we're going to talk about is the Antietam Battlefield.
National Battlefield.
Yes, the National Battlefield. And I mean, it is really rich with history. It is incredibly rich with history. And if anywhere would have ghosts roaming around, I could see why this place would.
It was a scene of a major battle in the Civil War.
The battle took place in September of 1862 in Antietam Creek near the small town of Sharpsburg, Maryland. They say that a staggering 23,100 men were wounded, killed, or missing in action after the Union and Confederate armies collided in the nearby cornfields, farmlands, and you're just going to get it.
It's like the can fields.
After the Union and Confederate armies collided in the nearby cornfields, farmlands, and Antietam Creek.
When the Confederate Army reached the sunken road, which provided some protection at first, General Robert E. Lee ordered that the battle be held there. Soldiers on both sides fired continuously as the Federals tried repeatedly to overtake the position. Finally, the Confederate soldiers were overrun and bodies fell on top of bodies in the bloodied sunken road. Today, we know that as Bloody Lane.
Right. And it's really interesting because they talk about the fact, even visiting it now, it just has that feeling about it. If you get the occasion to walk there, they say that you will indeed go back in time and be humbled by the experience that even now when people are walking that lane, it's very quiet and solemn.
Yeah, it's like, I think someone mentioned it as, it's kind of like a church.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
A
Church-like quiet.
Yes, that's what it was.
According to eyewitnesses, Bloody Lane is haunted. Gunfire and the smell of gunpowder have been reported when no one is on the road or even nearby. One visitor to the battlefield saw several men in Confederate uniforms walking Bloody Lane. He thought they were reenactors until they vanished.
You know, we heard the same thing about Gettysburg.
Gettysburg. There's a lot of really cool stories about Gettysburg. Let's see. There's another.
It gets creepier, though.
The most convincing of the reports is the one of some Baltimore schoolboys who walked Bloody Lane and heard singing out in the fields.
This is the creepy part.
They said it sounded like a chant or the Christmas song Deck the Halls. They heard a chant similar to fa la 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 la. It was repeating. Mm-hmm. The area was near the observation tower where the Irish Brigade charged the Confederates with a battle cry in Gaelic, which sounded like the Christmas Carol.
Isn't that crazy?
That's kind of cool.
That's kind of creepy, too,
It is kind of creepy.
Okay, so other haunted areas in the Burnside Bridge, known then as the Roerich Bridge?
Roerback,
that's it. Roerback Bridge.
Wow.
Where General Ambrose Burnside pushed the Confederates back after many defeated attempts. Many soldiers were buried quickly in and around the bridge in unmarked graves. Visitors at night have reported seeing balls of blue light moving around, the sound of drum playing cadences as it fades into the night.
And another part of it was, I know we're telling a lot, but this place really has a lot. It's really interesting. The Pry House and the Piper House stand on the battlefield. Both are reported to be haunted. Stories ranging from footsteps heard on the stairs to apparitions of a woman thought to be the wife of one of the generals who died in the house.
Oh, very cool. Very scary. Very creepy.
And then there was the St. Paul Episcopal Church in Sharpsburg. It was used as a Confederate hospital. After the battle, reports tell of the screams of injured and dying still coming from the building. Others report seeing flickering lights from the church's tower. The wounded were taken into nearby Sharpsburg to the church and into people's homes to be cared for, and many of them died there after surviving the horrendous battle. There is a house west of the town of Mount Airy where some of the wounded were taken. Legend has it that the floorboards in the house are still stained with blood and cannot be removed even with sanding.
Wow. But anyway, where's this again, and where is it again?
Again?
Where is it?
Again.
Where is it?
This is Antietam's Battlefield and the Bloody Lane.
Sounds like a really creepy place.
Yeah, can't wait.
Can't wait. Are we going?
There's so much history. Yes, I want to go so badly, actually.
So Antietam National Battlefield hauntings. Now, we have other places that are haunted as well. That is related to the Civil War. Anyway, it's got a rich history because it's seen a lot of war.
Right. It was a major confrontational point.
Yeah. It saw a lot of battle, lot of death.
We could mention a ton of different battle areas to go visit in Maryland. That's something we definitely came across.
Okay, so Point Lookout in Scotland, Maryland.
Right. That kept messing with my head because it didn't say it that way. It would just say Point Point Lookout, Scotland. I was like, okay, am I still in Maryland? I don't want to be talking about Scotland when I'm supposed to be in Maryland. But it is. It's Scotland, Maryland. I did not know that exists. I am terrible at
geography.
Thank you. I forgot the word. That wasn't helping me any.
I know lots of words.
You know words. Lots of words. Big words.
Big words.
Okay. Anyway.
Okay. So anyway, what was this place, Sandy?
Well, first of all, it talks about the fact that they think it's the most haunted area in the state. I've heard that a lot, by the way. A lot of people claim that.
Yeah, a lot of people make that claim. Gettysburg makes that claim. Let me just say that there's a lot, even Stanley Hotel would claim that that is the most haunted place in the U.S. So, but Point Lookout is a southern tip, often used by investigators in paranormal activities, is what they usually, but itself, the historical background of the Point Lookout, I have it right here. This location itself during the Revolutionary War prevented a British armada of 70 ships from sailing up the Potomac near St. George Island. In the War of 1812, Point Lookout earned its name by providing watch posts for spotting British ships. The lighthouse became the most famously haunted and was built and put into use in 1830. In 1880s, developers built a resort and hotel offering cooling breeze off the water as an escape from hot, humid Washington, D.C., but the hotel burned down. Today, all that is left of the hotel is a huge rusty wheel that protrudes from the sand.
That's kind of sad.
It is kind of sad. But it's played a significant role throughout American history too, though. I mean, even in the Civil War.
Yeah, it talks about the fact that it actually was a war hospital, correct?
Correct. Yes. And a POW camp, I believe.
Yeah, it became a POW camp also. If there's going to be hauntings, like I said, it makes sense because when you're talking hospital, you know a lot died. When you're talking POW camp, you know a lot died.
Yeah, exactly. During the Civil War, federal forces occupied Point Lookout, building a prisoner of war camp and a hospital for the wounded for the Battle of Gettysburg. So the Gettysburg wounded ended up there to be treated. The camp and the hospital were far from Gettysburg, so a trip from some poor soldiers suffering battle wounds was a long, arduous journey. The isolation of the area made escape attempts from the Confederate prisoner of war also impossible. So it was a really good strategic location.
Right.
And then you had the Hammond General Hospital there. Oh, I thought you were
when we move on to talk about the haunting stuff, then I've got something to say.
No, the Hammond General Hospital, designed with wards radiating out from a central hub like spokes on a wheel, was shut down shortly after the end of the Civil War. So,
okay. So that's the big wheel they're talking about sticking out. It's the foundation, and it looks like a wheel.
Right.
Got it. That makes the picture I just saw made sense then.
Yes. Camp Hoffman, the largest federal facility for Confederate prisoners, was built to contain 10,000 prisoners, but believed by some to have held up to 50,000 men.
Wow.
Yeah. Prisoners were held in an open-air camp in tattered canvas tents, hot and mosquito-infested in summer, freezing cold in winter. Conditions were crowded and dirty, and there were reports of contaminated water and spoiled food. Also, smallpox broke out, forced the establishment of a separate unit for infectious diseases. So, I mean, it just really, it's just crazy. It estimated between 3,000 and 8,000 men died of war wounds and disease and were buried in a massive grave. Locally.
That breaks my heart. It really does. It breaks my heart.
So you can understand why that this place would be a source of a lot of hauntings.
Right. And they say here it's easy to see why Point Lookout has the reputation of hauntings. Long story short, too late for that. There are lots of little things that are naturally occurring around there that contribute to the spooky factor.
Especially whenever you have ghosts that people report seeing, everything from Confederate to just people just walking along the roads. Yeah. So, I mean, you know what? That's kind of creepy. You're listening to Two Tenderfoot Tourists. And now let's take a moment to recognize a couple of our sponsors. Two Tenderfoot Tourists is sponsored by Escapade Design. Does your small business have a mobile-friendly website, or is it outdated?
Perhaps you're concerned that your website could be hacked.
Prepare to sleep well tonight.
Escapade Design is the perfect one-stop shop for building or renovation of any small business website.
The programmers use the latest in technology for the best security and usability.
And they'll work tirelessly to give you everything you want in a website.
Visit escapade.design for your website needs.
Need an example of their work?
Check out our new website, twotenderfoottourists.com.
Then go visit escapade.design and start your new adventure in business today.
Also sponsored by Insurers of America.
Insurers of America is committed to being at the forefront of technology and providing the best possible customer experience in the insurance industry. Regardless of how big, small, unique, or specific your insurance needs, Insurers of America has a policy for you and tops it all off with exceptional personalized care. They enjoy giving you the peace of mind that comes with knowing your insurance agency can help you. Connect with an agent at insurersofamerica.com. Become a part of a family at Insurers of America today.
Also sponsored by Classic Rock Coffee Company is locally owned and started right here in Southwest Missouri.
Don't let the name fool you. You don't have to like rock and roll to enjoy Classic Rock Coffee Company. But it couldn't hurt. Regardless of your favorite pick-me-up, Classic Rock Coffee Company has got you covered. Traditional drinks, flavored drinks, protein shakes, hot teas, and smoothies. Are you hungry? They've got great coffee and a great menu. Yes, they serve food too. That even includes keto. There are so many drinks to choose from. What are our favorites? Well, for me, anything chai. My absolute favorite is the cheesecake chai tea frappe.
And mine is a toss-up between two frappes. The mocha coca and the sweet emotion made with chocolate and caramel are both off the hook. Classic Rock Coffee Company is located at 1230 U.S. Highway 60 in Republic, Missouri.
Let them know that Two Tenderfoot Tourists sent you and get a special discount. And now, back to the podcast.
Okay, so a lighthouse had stood at Point Lookout since 1830, has had many people, like paranormal investigators, visit it. It has actually been on TV, like in a TV show called Weird Travels and Mystery Hunter. And it was also on TLC's Haunted Lighthouses. I guess they had a show that they programmed that covered that. This lighthouse apparently is a source of a lot of paranormal activity, a lot of ghost sightings. People claim to hear ghostly sounds of moaning as well as sound of men snoring. And you know what? You can still see that. It's the same hotel.
Wow, that's
cool. The same house.
That's really cool.
So, now, this is the same place where we read that during high storms, really bad storms, it sounds like someone's knocking on the front door?
Yeah, I think it is what you read. That creeped me out.
It is.
Here we go.
Ann Davis, is that the one you're going to talk about? The lighthouse keepers.
I didn't know yet. I just flipped to my page and found it. I was reading your page.
Oh, were you? Okay. Yeah. It talks about this woman they see a ghost of. Her name is Ann Davis, and her the wife of the first lighthouse keeper, maintained the Point Lookout Lighthouse for many years after her husband's death. In a famous photograph, a ghost of Ann Davis appeared at the top of a stairwell in a long blue dress and white blouse.
Yep.
She stayed on the lighthouse until her death, when she was found laying in the lantern room, having died while performing her routine tasks. One of the sounds heard in the lighthouse is a soft female voice saying, what does it say?
I don't know. I don't.
This is my house. Remember we talked about that? Oh,
yeah. Well, we talked about a lot of stuff. Yeah. This is crazy.
It seems as if the dedicated lighthouse keeper prefers to haunt Point Lookout rather than move on. So, yeah, you can still hear her voice from time to time saying, this is my house.
Right. And evidently there's also like dramatic drops in temperature sometimes and stuff like that in different rooms. That's typical, but it's fun.
It is. There is all kinds of ghostly happenings there at the lighthouse and on the grounds around it. In fact, they even talk about shipwrecks that happened right off the coast in 1864. The USS Tulip exploded off the coast of Point Lookout. Despite problems with a damaged boiler, Captain William Smith gave the order to increase steam pressure. The boiler blew up, causing the sinking of the ship. Anyway, okay, the boiler blew up and the ship sunk. and 47 souls were lost on that day. 8 mangled corpses washed up on the shore of Point Lookout later on.
That is so disturbing.
In 1878, a hurricane known as the Gale of 78 ripped the Ceylon deck off a cargo and passenger ship named the Express. Waves rolled the ship just north of Point Lookout, and 16 people were lost. The second mate, Joseph, or James Henley, that it depends on which story you're looking at, has knocked on the door of the lighthouse during the storms. That's what we are talking about. So if you're out there where there's a storm, you might see him walking up and down the beach.
No thanks.
No, thank you. The list goes on of all the things that have gone. Even murder is a part of the story that is Point Lookout. Anyway, Point Lookout. It's got a rich history. It's got a lot of death, a lot of ghosts.
I'm pretty sure that would be a great place to go for a tour.
Seriously, especially during Halloween, right?
Or at least just dark.
No, that's true.
A dark, stormy night.
A dark, stormy night.
So are we moving on to a new one?
Yeah, let's move on to another one. Let me look at something, okay? Hold on.
No.
Okay, so now listen, we're a travel podcast, right? We goof around a lot. We like to just wing it.
Have a good time.
We just like to have some fun. And you know what? We're not perfect, but one of the things we like to recommend is certain hotels. Now, if you're a person who has a hankering for going to haunted hotels, the Lord Baltimore Hotel is the place to go.
Right. It is located in Baltimore, Maryland,
downtown.
Which you probably guessed. But it is definitely intriguing.
It is intriguing. It was built in 1928. It has 428 guest rooms, and it is extremely haunted.
Yeah, visitors to the hotel have reported countless encounters with ghosts as well as other paranormal activity. Some guests have claimed that they had nightmares while staying in the hotel because they are sensitive to the presence of the paranormal.
Yes. Okay, so one of the things that they repeatedly keep in the 1930s, a man and a woman along with their 7-year-old daughter jumped to their deaths, is according to a legend. This is just a legend that they heard. And they can still see the girl in the building wandering around the hallways, rolling a red ball, and her parents can be seen in the ballroom, I believe.
Now, my version here is very similar. But it says, local legend states that a married couple committed suicide by jumping off of the Lord Baltimore Hotel after the stock market crash of 1929, leaving behind a little girl.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. This is the way legends usually go. You can get many variations.
They're mixed up.
And they're trying to explain why they're seeing a girl wandering around the halls because with a red ball, what did it say? Black shoes. There was they gave a strange description of her.
They say a few things about her. This is really fascinating to me. It's so weird.
It's creepy, right?
Let's see. Where's it at? The ghost of a little girl with a red ball, black shoes, and a long cream-colored dress. And they say, right, others have seen the girl crying, rocking back and forth, and screaming.
Whoa.
I'm like, I'd rather see her playing with the red ball. Thank you.
Me too. Okay, so
this is all on the 19th floor.
Yes, all on the 19th floor. I read an article that was given by the TV 11 and WBAL TV, Channel 11 NBC, and they wrote an article where they're talking to the manager of the hotel. Said he, in the middle of the night, will get phone calls saying, "Will you tell that little girl to stop running up and down the halls? I can't sleep."
They also get complaints about feeling like people are watching them sleep.
I get that in hotels, though.
I could not say if I felt that very strongly.
That's why sometimes I don't get any sleep, because I get that paranoid feeling.
And they've also talked about being in the elevator, which there's a couple of things about the elevator, but when they're riding in the elevator or been in the lobby, they say they have that sensation that they are being touched by a pair of hands that hey, no.
Yeah.
I don't like people to touch me without permission anyway, so having hands that I can't see touch me freaks me out.
Yeah, that's not going to work for me.
But they also talked about the elevator will randomly go to the 19th floor even when nobody else is in the elevator with you and nobody's pushed the 19th floor button.
Yes. Yeah. It's considered actually a list. There's a list that you can find online of and it was very difficult for us to narrow it down, but there's a list of different there's hotels all over Maryland that is considered major haunting.
The site I'm looking at right now that's giving me the little bit of information I do have is called Haunted Rooms. Mm-hmm. That has to tell you how much hauntings are in hotels out there. Because haunted rooms,
yeah, haunted rooms,
It's pretty fascinating. Yeah. I get kind of sucked in.
So this place, the Lord Baltimore Hotel, it is a big hotel. The hotel itself was built in 1928. It has refined rooms featuring contemporary furnishing, original artwork, and vintage prints, as well as flat screen TVs. It has all the modern amenities that you would like in a hotel, plus a whole lot more. The place is like gorgeous. If you go online and go to Google and just put in Lord Baltimore Hotel, the place is just, absolutely gorgeous. And it's really difficult to believe that this place is actually haunted. It really does. It's like, how could this place that looks like this? Now, from the exterior, you can tell how old it is. You can tell it's really, really old. But interior, they've remodeled it to the point where you're going like, wow, that is beautiful. So yeah, that's downtown Baltimore.
Right.
Lord Baltimore Hotel.
I find it very intriguing, and I love old buildings anyway. So, yay.
Yay. So go there. I wonder how much the rooms cost to stay there.
Curious.
You want me to look? Oh, wow. Okay. Hotels.com says $27 a night. This is 2018, of course.
Well, if they're nice rooms, that's pretty competitive.
That is very competitive. TripAdvisor, they all say about anywhere between $112 to $134. Although that's this October, so
it depends on what their season is.
Yeah,
because they could have a really good fall season. You don't know.
They could. All right. So what's next, my love?
Oh, next. Okay, I'm really excited because I've always had this strange affection for the works of Edgar Allan Poe.
You know what? It takes a real serious sick person to enjoy Edgar Allan Poe.
I know, right? Seriously though, I really, really always enjoyed those stories when I was in high school. Mm-hmm. And I do have a book that is the works of Edgar Allan Poe, and I think they're good. They're weird.
Yeah.
Won't lie.
Oh, yeah.
I wondered sometimes if he was on something, but
rightfully so, I think.
His story is actually quite interesting. If you get the time, you might study up on him. If you like history and you like writers and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So the next place we go then is Westminster Hall and the burying ground. In October of 1849, Edgar Allan Poe was found delirious on the Baltimore streets and oddly was wearing clothes that were not his own. Sadly, he died a few days later and is buried in the cemetery where visitors often leave flasks of cognac, coins, and flowers. And they say that on Halloween, you can come by for a reading of Poe's The Telltale Heart, one of my favorites, and a rare chance to visit the cemetery's catacombs. I totally want to do that. But just the story, the way it's set up, and the fact that he was wearing somebody else's clothes and stuff, it makes it very suspicious. And I believe he was murdered.
I wouldn't disagree with that.
In my personal opinion, because I am so enlightened, I believe he was murdered. So if he was murdered, I'd see even more reason for him to haunt the place, wouldn't you?
I agree. The conspiracy is about the voting. I can't remember what the name of that voting con that they did back then, but they used to like hijack or steal or rob or kidnap. That's it. They kidnap someone. They would get them drunk and they would change out their clothes and then they'd make them go into the voting booth with a different name and they'd make the vote for the candidate that these people were wanting to do. They'd be so drunk and blitzed they wouldn't know.
No, they just having a good old time.
And that was something else. I part of me would wish that they would actually do this again, but I understand why they wouldn't, and I think it would be a bad idea, but I really wish they did. The places where they used to have voting booths to encourage people to come in and vote, this is like in the mid-1800s, just before the Civil War, but what they would do is voting areas would be in bars.
Oh my gosh.
And if you come in and you make a vote, you get a free beer. Okay. So, but then it kind of led into the whole thing that I was talking about before, where a person would like literally put on their different clothes and go get themselves a free beer, and they'd be blitzed.
Right. They kept going in and voting to get the free beer.
And there's no regulation. There's no way to keep track of these things. But part of me wants to say that is because, that is one of the things that might have killed Edgar Allan Poe. There's so many things that are so up in the air about his death, but you can visit his grave in Maryland. Where in Westminster? Westminster Hall.
My thing moved.
Yeah.
Sorry.
See?
Yes.
Yes.
That's what it is. Yes.
Westminster Hall. It's at 519 West Fayette Street in Baltimore. Fayette. Sorry. Fayette? Yes. What you said with the thing in it and the what.
Yes. 519 West Fayette Street.
So yeah, you can go and, anyway, that is a great place to go for Halloween, wouldn't you say?
I would think that was amazing.
That'd be an excellent place. Anyway, so what do we have next? We can move on, right?
What do we have next? Is it the one about the bridge?
Yes, the Jericho covered bridge. I like this one in particular because of the fact that it has so much of the folklore and the creepy factor that normally plays a part in any kind of culture, where it just has so many different creepy things that go on. For instance, this bridge, the Jericho covered bridge, was constructed originally in 1865, which, thinking back, is just at the end of the Civil War because it ended in 1865.
A lot of our ghost legends come from the Civil War era.
It does seem that way, doesn't it?
That and slavery.
That is true. That is true. Because one of the things they say about this particular bridge is that sometimes you see the spirits of lynched slaves hanging in the bridge.
There it is.
That is the most commonly story that you'll see, that you have those bodies hanging from the rafters. And they always say that it's lynched slaves. Many late night drivers have reported cars stalling on the bridge. Some have spotted powdery handprints appearing on the vehicles after crossing the bridge, which is like creepy level number 2, because it actually gets creepier. Others have seen ghostly women crossing the bridge with a basket
ghastly,
of
That's ghastly.
Others have seen ghostly women crossing the bridge with a basket of flowers, or their spirit of a young woman with a badly burned face.
That's so creepy.
That is so creepy. And then they also talk about a gray monkey, a terrifying gray monkey with a massive tail. The reports have said that it is such a hideous red-eyed demon guarding the bridge. The presence of this creature might explain the blood-curdling screams often heard near the bridge.
That's so creepy. Did you know there's also a specific routine visitors have followed at night to try to see something? That. They say, number 1, you drive over the bridge and turn around at the dead end. Number 2, you drive back over the bridge, stop in the middle, put the car in park, and have everyone look through the back window.
Nice.
Then you have the driver step on the brakes. And it says, what will you see?
What will you see? The Jericho covered bridge is located near the historic village of Jerusalem Mill.
Interesting.
And is the last remaining covered bridge in Hartford. The bridge was constructed in 1865, but is quite possibly an older bridge that is, often crossed in this area, and may be the reason for so many disturbances here.
That's so cool.
So that is something you may want to visit. You know where it's at now. We told you.
I like stuff like that. That's the stuff that when you get out, I mean, you're in the wooded area for the most part, so it just adds to the creepy factor.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm just going to say, if there's not something going on, it'd be really easy out there like that for people to just have a good old time with people going through there.
I agree.
Really mess with them.
I agree. Yeah. So what do we got? The Goatman. We have the Snallygaster. And we have Chessie, the Chesapeake Bay sea monster. Gosh.
And then we have...
Say that 6 times fast.
Then we have the Antietam National Battlefield.
There's hauntings there.
Yes. And Point Lookout State Park and Lighthouse.
That's hauntings.
Lord Baltimore Hotel hauntings.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then we talked about Edgar Allan Poe's gravesite and the Jericho Covered Bridge.
Yes. And you know what? I'm going to make sure that those are all within our description of the podcast. You'll also find links to these places also in our Facebook page, that's for sure. So visit those places, and then if you want to continue doing your own search, that's all you have to do.
Most definitely. And now we're moving on to our very last thing.
Oh, yes.
And that is St. Paul's Cemetery in Chestertown.
Yeah, what'd you discover about that place?
There's not a lot of detail that I have here on it, but I just thought it's a great way to wrap it up, and it's really creepy. I like eerie.
Give me the creepy factor.
It says here on Haunted Rooms, in Chestertown, Maryland, is the old St. Paul's Cemetery. The cemetery dates back to the 1700s and is said to be the location of regular paranormal activity. Some of the activity may be the results of casualties buried in the cemetery following the Battle of Culk's Field during the War of 1812. Graves belonging to the Union and Confederate soldiers are also in the cemetery. The ghost of Tench, okay, I go through this every time. Sorry about pronunciation, guys. The ghost of Tench Tillman is seen at the bridge of the edge of the cemetery. He was an officer during the Revolutionary War. Sometimes when it is especially dark, people have claimed to see his lantern crossing the same bridge his ghost is believed to haunt.
Ooh.
The most famous grave at the cemetery with paranormal activity is that of the actress Tallulah Bankhead. People claim you can hear her raspy voice if you lay on the slab that covers her grave.
Wow.
Creepy factor 12.
But yeah, you can hear her raspy voice, right? And sometimes it sings, I believe is what we also read somewhere. You can actually hear it sing, and you'll find beads, tokens, empty bottles of vodka, and even other mementos are left on her slab mysteriously left there.
Yeah, it's
Weird.
a little creepy.
So yeah, I think that's a good way. That's the old cemetery. It says that it was built in 1713. Wow, that is old.
Yeah, that is an old.
That predates the America becoming America. I mean, that's old.
Yeah, this says you got a better date than me because this just says the cemetery dates back to the 1700s, and it's said to be the location of regular paranormal activity. Very cool.
They got a 400-year-old tree that sits in there, a chestnut tree that people often go to visit. It's got a 90-foot canopy, shades the entire parking lot.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, that is really kind of creepy. Really kind of creepy? Really kind of creepy?
Marilyn, congratulations.
Yes.
You have excelled in the creepy factor.
Yes, that's right. But you know what? Maryland has a lot to offer. I mean, it's got a rich history, especially American history. And then on top of that, you just have so much to visit. In fact, I wish we could have more time to actually cover them in the podcast.
Well, and eventually we will do one that is not about their spooky destinations, but just about things we want to see there because, frankly, it's a beautiful state.
Yeah, the funny thing is they kind of mingle.
They do.
What we were talking about and things that we'd like to visit as well.
Right.
If there's something out there that you think that we would enjoy seeing, write us at tenderfoottourists@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and let us know, hey, you're from Maryland. Let us know what you love about your state.
Totally appreciate that. That would be perfect.
Totally love it. And you know what? We may just add you to our bucket list.
Oh, yeah. It's very likely because we're finding more and more things to add to our bucket list the more we study and research.
Thank you so much for making this an excellent podcast. Having you listen to us is just the best thing ever. And if you want to listen to all of our podcasts, you can listen to us on Stitcher, Castbox, Google Play, iTunes, and even Podbean. Go and subscribe to us and give us a 5-star review. It really helps us out. Not only does it give us encouragement, but it lets other people know that, you know what, we're worthy of listening to. Also, now we have a YouTube channel, and there we are. Subscribe to that, and you'll know when we've put something new up. Thank you so much for listening to this episode.
Number 62, the one about mysterious Maryland.
Okay, I'm Steve.
And I'm Sandy.
Until next time.
Stay tender.